Marcus swung the bottle with everything he had. Full force, no warning. The glass exploded against the back of her skull, and she dropped face first into the table. Blood everywhere. He stood over her laughing, shaking broken glass off his hand like it was nothing. His boys hollered and slapped his back like he just scored a touchdown. 5 grown men surrounding 2 women in a bar, and they thought it was funny. They thought she was finished. They thought she was just some girl. They had no idea. The woman bleeding on that table was a Navy SEAL, and she was 3 seconds from waking up and making every single one of them regret the day they were born. Subscribe now, stay with me to the very end, and drop a comment with the city you're watching from. Let me see how far this story reaches. Harper Dalton opened her eyes and the world was sideways. Everything was wrong. The floor was where the ceiling should be. Sounds came in waves like someone was turning a radio dial back and forth. She could taste copper. She could feel something warm sliding down the back of her neck, pooling in the collar of her shirt. Blood, her blood. And then she heard laughing. Not nervous laughing, not uncomfortable laughing, the kind of laughing that comes from men who believe they've already won. Deep, ugly, satisfied laughing. Harper pressed her palms flat against the table and pushed herself up. Slowly, her arms were shaking not from weakness, but from something far more dangerous. From restraint, from the war inside her own body between the woman she was trying to become and the soldier she had been trained to be. "Stay down, sweetheart," a voice said from somewhere behind her. "You already lost." She didn't turn around. Not yet. Instead, she looked across the table at Madison, her best friend since sophomore year of high school, the woman who had driven 4 hours to visit her every single weekend when Harper was in recovery, the woman who never once asked Harper to explain what happened overseas. Madison was pressed against the wall, her hands trembling, her eyes wide and locked on Harper. "Harp," Madison whispered, "your head, you're bleeding." "I know," Harper said quietly. "We need to leave." "Not yet." Madison knew that voice. She had heard it exactly twice before. Once when a man followed them to their car after a college party, and once when a doctor told Harper she would never serve again. It was the voice Harper used when she had already made a decision that couldn't be undone. "Harper, please." But Harper wasn't listening anymore. Something had shifted behind her eyes, something cold and precise and terrifyingly calm. She reached up and touched to the back of her head. Her fingers came away red. She stared at the blood for a long moment, then wiped her hand on her jeans and turned around. There were 5 of them. 5 grown men, all mid-30s, all built like they had spent time in some branch of the military. They wore it in their posture, in the way they stood too wide, in the way they scanned the room like they were still looking for threats. But they weren't soldiers anymore. Whatever discipline they once had was gone, drowned in cheap whiskey and wounded pride. The one in front was Derek. She remembered his name because he had said it like it was supposed to impress her. "I'm Derek, Derek Voss." He had a jaw like a shovel and eyes that were too small for his face. He was the one who had grabbed her wrist. He was the one who had started all of this. Behind him stood Marcus, the one who had hit her with the bottle. He was still holding the broken neck of it, turning it in his hand like a trophy. He was grinning. His teeth were yellow. "You should have just come and sat with us," Derek said, shaking his head like he was disappointed in her. "We were being nice. We were being gentlemen." Harper stared at him. She didn't blink. She didn't move. "Now look at you," Derek continued, "bleeding all over yourself, making a scene, all because you couldn't take a compliment." "You grabbed my wrist," Harper said. "I was being friendly." "You don't grab a stranger's wrist. That's not friendly. That's a threat." Derek laughed and looked at his boys. They laughed too, like trained dogs. "A threat from me, sweetheart. If I wanted to threaten you, you'd know it." "I know it now," Harper said. The laughter stopped. Something changed in the air. It was like the temperature dropped 10 degrees in a single second. Derek's smile faded. He took a step forward, closing the distance between them. He was a full foot taller than her. He looked down at her like she was a child. "What did you just say to me?" Harper didn't step back. She didn't flinch. She looked up at him with eyes that had seen things he couldn't imagine, things that would keep him awake for the rest of his life if she ever described them. "I said I know it now. You're a threat. All 5 of you. And I'm telling you, one time, walk away, take your friends, pay your tab, leave this bar, and nothing else has to happen tonight." Derek blinked. For just a moment, something flickered across his face. Not fear exactly, but something close. Confusion, maybe. The kind of confusion a predator feels when the prey doesn't run. Then Marcus spoke from behind him. Bro, are you really gonna let this little girl talk to you like that? She's 5 foot nothing. I already cracked a bottle on her head, and she's still running her mouth. Let's finish this. That was the moment. Harper would think about it later, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every second. That was the moment everything could have gone differently. If Marcus had stayed quiet. If Derek had listened to the small, scared voice in the back of his brain that was telling him something was very wrong about this woman. If any of them had paid attention to the way she was standing, her weight slightly forward, her hands open at her sides, her breathing controlled and steady despite the blood running down her neck. But they didn't, because they saw what they wanted to see. A small woman, a target, an easy win. Derek reached for her again. This time Harper didn't just block. She moved. Fast. So fast that the men behind Derek didn't even see what happened. 1 second she was standing still, and the next Derek's wrist was bent at an angle that wrists are not supposed to bend, and he was on his knees making a sound that was somewhere between a scream and a whimper. I told you, Harper said, her voice flat and emotionless. I told you to walk away. Marcus lunged. He came in swinging with the broken bottle aiming for her face. Harper ducked under it, stepped inside his reach, and drove her elbow into his nose. The sound was like someone stepping on a bag of chips. Marcus dropped the bottle and grabbed his face with both hands. Blood poured between his fingers. My nose, he screamed. She broke my nose. She broke my freaking nose. The third man came from her left. She didn't know his name. It didn't matter. He threw a wild haymaker that had all his weight behind it and none of his brain. Harper sidestepped it, grabbed his arm, and used his own momentum to send him crashing into a table. The table collapsed under him. He didn't get up. The fourth man was smarter. He circled. He kept his distance. He was watching her now, really watching her, and Harper could see the exact moment he realized he was in trouble. Who the hell are you? He whispered. Harper didn't answer. She didn't have to, because Derek was back on his feet and he had found something on the floor. A knife. A folding knife that must have fallen out of someone's pocket during the chaos. He flicked it open with his thumb, and the blade caught the light. Madison screamed. The entire bar went silent. Every conversation stopped. Every glass was set down. 30 people stared at the scene unfolding in front of them. A bleeding woman, 5'3", surrounded by men twice her size, one of them now holding a knife. You think you're tough, Derek snarled. His wrist was swollen. His pride was shattered. And in his eyes, Harper could see something she had seen many times in the field. The look of a man who had decided he was willing to kill. Put the knife down, Derek. You don't tell me what to do. I'm not telling you. I'm warning you. There is a very big difference, he charged. It happened in 3 seconds. Harper shifted her weight to her back foot, waited until the blade was 6 inches from her chest, then exploded forward. She caught his knife hand at the wrist, twisted hard, and heard the joint pop. The knife clattered to the floor. Before Derek could scream, she was behind him, her arm locked around his neck in a rear choke that she had practiced 10,000 times on men much bigger and much more dangerous than him. Derek clawed at her arm, his face turned red, then purple. His movements became sluggish, then weak, then still. Harper held the choke for exactly 4 more seconds, counting in her head the way she had been trained, then released. Derek slumped to the floor, unconscious but breathing. Harper stood up straight. She wiped the blood from her face with the back of her hand. She looked at the fifth man, the only one still standing. He was frozen. His hands were up, palms out, like he was surrendering. I don't want any trouble, he said, his voice cracking. Then sit down, Harper said. He sat. The bar was silent for what felt like an eternity. Then someone in the back started clapping. 1 person, then 2. Then the whole bar erupted. People were standing up, shouting, cheering. A woman at the bar was crying. The bartender, a thick man with a gray beard, was on the phone with the police. But even he was staring at Harper with his mouth open. Harper didn't hear any of it. She walked back to Madison, sat down across from her, and pressed a bar napkin against the wound on her head. Are you okay? Madison asked, tears streaming down her face. I'm fine. You're not fine. You just fought 5 men. You're covered in blood. You probably have another concussion. Harper, we need to get you to a hospital. I said I'm fine, Maddie. Stop doing that. Stop pretending everything is fine when it's not. You do this every time. You shut down. You go cold. You act like nothing touches you. But I saw your face when that man grabbed you. I saw your hands shaking. You were scared. Harper was quiet for a long time. The napkin on her head was already soaked through. I wasn't scared of them, she finally said. Then what were you scared of? Harper looked at her hands, the same hands that had just dismantled 5 men in under a minute. They were trembling. I was scared of me, she whispered. I was scared of how easy it was, how natural it felt. I've been out of the Navy for 14 months, Madi. 14 months. And the second that bottle hit my head, I wasn't in a bar anymore. I was back in Kandahar. I was back in a room full of hostiles, and my only mission was to neutralize every threat in the space. I didn't think, I just reacted. And that terrifies me. Madison reached across the table and took Harper's hand. You're not a monster, Harper. You didn't see what I did to that man's nose. You didn't hear the sound. I heard it, and I also saw what they were going to do to us if you hadn't stopped them. That man had a knife, Harper. A knife. He was going to stab you. He was going to kill you. You saved us. You saved everyone in this bar. Harper pulled her hand away. Not roughly, not angrily, just slowly, like she was protecting Madison from something. The police arrived 7 minutes later. 4 squad cars, 2 ambulances. The blue and red lights cut through the bar windows and painted everything in alternating colors. Officers flooded in, weapons drawn, shouting commands that seemed almost silly, given that the fight had been over for nearly 10 minutes. The paramedics reached Marcus first. He was still on the floor, both hands over his face, moaning. His nose was crushed flat. One of the paramedics looked at it and immediately called for a stretcher. Derek was conscious again, but disoriented. He kept asking where he was. The third man, the one who had gone through the table, had a possible spinal injury. He couldn't feel his legs. Harper sat in her chair and watched them work. She answered every question the officers asked. She gave her name, her age, her address. She described the sequence of events calmly and accurately, the way she had been trained to deliver mission reports. Then the officer asked her a question that changed everything. Ma'am, do you have any combat training? Harper looked at him. He was young, mid-20s maybe. He had kind eyes and a wedding ring that still looked new. Yes, she said. What kind? I'm a Navy SEAL. The officer blinked. He looked at his partner. His partner looked back at him. Neither of them spoke for a full 5 seconds. You're a SEAL, the officer repeated like he was trying to make the words fit together in his brain. Former Lieutenant Harper Dalton. I was medically discharged 14 months ago. The officer slowly lowered his notepad. He looked at the 5 men being loaded onto stretchers and into the backs of squad cars. Then he looked back at Harper. 5'3", 115 pounds, blood drying on her face and neck. You did all of that? They attacked me first. The big one hit me with a bottle from behind. The other one grabbed me before that. I acted in self-defense. Ma'am, I'm not questioning your right to defend yourself. I'm just trying to understand what I'm looking at. Harper didn't respond to that. There was nothing to say. She had spent years being underestimated by instructors, by fellow soldiers, by enemies who saw her size and made assumptions that cost them dearly. She was tired of explaining herself, tired of proving that strength doesn't always look the way people expect it to. The officer's radio crackled. A voice on the other end said something Harper couldn't make out, and the officer stepped away to respond. When he came back, his expression had changed. The kindness was still there, but there was something else now, concern. Lieutenant Dalton, I need to ask you to stay here. We're going to have detectives come down to take your full statement. Am I being arrested? No, ma'am, not at this time. But given the extent of the injuries, we need to do a thorough investigation. I understand. Madison stood up. She needs to go to a hospital. She was hit in the head with a glass bottle. She has a history of concussions. The officer nodded. We'll have the paramedics look at her. I don't need paramedics, Harper said. Yes, you do, Madison snapped. And you're going to let them look at you, or I swear to God, Harper, I will carry you to that ambulance myself. For the first time all night, Harper almost smiled. Almost. It was the faintest twitch at the corner of her mouth there and gone in less than a second. But Madison caught it. She always caught it. The paramedic who examined Harper was a woman in her 50s with steady hands and a no-nonsense attitude. She cleaned the wound, applied butterfly stitches, and shined a light in Harper's eyes. "You've had concussions before," the paramedic said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." "How many documented or total?" The paramedic paused. "Documented. 7. In total." I stopped counting. The paramedic turned off her flashlight and sat back. "You need a CT scan. Tonight. Your pupils are uneven and you're showing signs of a grade 2 concussion at minimum. I'm recommending transport." "I'll go tomorrow." "You might not wake up tomorrow." That got Harper's attention. She looked at the paramedic, really looked at her, and saw something in the woman's eyes that she recognized. Understanding. Not pity, not judgment. Just the quiet, steady understanding of someone who had seen people push through injuries that should have killed them. "Fine," Harper said. "I'll go." Madison rode with her in the ambulance. Neither of them spoke for the first few minutes. The siren was off, but the lights were on, painting the interior in soft red pulses. 14 months, Madison said quietly. "What, 14 months out? And this is the first time I've seen you look like yourself. What's that supposed to mean?" "It means ever since you got discharged, you've been walking around like a ghost. You don't eat. You don't sleep. You sit in your apartment and stare at the walls. You go to those therapy sessions and come home and stare at the walls some more. Tonight was the first time in 14 months that I saw Harper. The real Harper. The one who doesn't back down. The one who doesn't give up. The one who protects the people she loves. I almost killed a man, Madison. Almost doesn't count. It counts to me." The ambulance hit a bump and Harper winced. The pain in her head was getting worse, not better. She closed her eyes and pressed her palms against her temples, trying to push back the pressure that was building behind her eyes. "They're going to come after me," Harper said. "What? Who?" "Those men, that Derek guy, he's not going to let this go. I embarrassed him in front of a bar full of people. I broke his wrist. I choked him unconscious. Men like that don't forget. Men like that don't forgive." "Harper, he's in police custody. For now. He'll be out by morning. Assault charges maybe. Drunk and disorderly. His lawyer will have him walking free before breakfast. And then he's going to start thinking. And when men like that start thinking, they get dangerous." Madison swallowed hard. "You don't know that. I know exactly that. I've spent 6 years dealing with men like him. The only difference is overseas I could finish the job. Here I have to let him walk away and hope he makes the right choice. And men like Derek Voss never make the right choice." The ambulance pulled into the hospital bay. The doors opened and the cold night air rushed in. Harper sat up, swung her legs over the side, and stepped down onto the concrete. She was steady. Her back was straight. Her eyes were clear despite the pain. A nurse met them at the door and led Harper to a trauma room. Madison followed, refusing to leave her side. As they walked down the hall, Harper's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out and looked at the screen. One new message from an unknown number. She opened it. "You think tonight was bad? You have no idea who you just messed with. This isn't over, Lieutenant." Harper stared at the message. Her jaw tightened. Her grip on the phone turned her knuckles white. "What is it?" Madison asked. "What's wrong?" Harper turned the phone off and put it back in her pocket. "Nothing," she said. "Just spam." But it wasn't spam, and Harper knew it. Someone at that bar had recognized her rank. Someone knew her name. Someone knew she was a former SEAL. And whoever sent that message wanted her to know that what happened at Murphy's Tavern was not the end. It was the beginning. Harper lay on the hospital bed while the CT scanner hummed around her. She closed her eyes. Behind her eyelids, she didn't see the bar. She didn't see Derek or Marcus or the broken bottle. She saw a desert. She saw sand and smoke and a door she had kicked open 3 years ago in a compound that officially didn't exist. She saw the face of a man she had been ordered to capture. She remembered his eyes calm and calculating even as she put him on the ground. She remembered his last words before they dragged him away. "You think you are the hunter, but one day you'll be the prey." Harper opened her eyes. The scanner beeped. The test was done. A technician told her to wait while the results were read. Madison was in the hallway pacing, chewing her thumbnail the way she always did when she was worried. Harper pulled out her phone and turned it on. She read the message again. She read it 3 more times, and then she did something she hadn't done in 14 months. She opened her contacts and scrolled to a name she had promised herself she would never call again. A name from her SEAL days. a man who had been her commanding officer, her mentor, and the closest thing she had to a father figure since her own dad disappeared from her life. Commander James Westbrook. Her thumb hovered over the call button. She could feel her heartbeat in the wound on her head, throbbing in rhythm with her pulse. If she made this call, there was no going back. Calling Westbrook meant re-entering a world she had fought to leave. It meant admitting that civilian life hadn't just been hard. It had been a lie, a costume she wore over the warrior she still was. She pressed call. It rang once, twice, 3 times, and then a voice she hadn't heard in 14 months answered. Harper Dalton, I've been waiting for this call. You've been waiting. Harper pressed the phone harder against her ear. The CT scanner room was cold and the fluorescent lights above buzzed with a low hum that made her teeth ache. What do you mean you've been waiting? Commander James Westbrook let out a long breath on the other end of the line. The kind of breath that carried weight, the kind that told Harper he had been holding something back for a long time. Where are you right now? He asked. Hospital, Mercy General in San Diego. Are you hurt? I got hit with a bottle. I'm fine. You're not fine if you're calling me, and you swore you'd never call me again. Your exact words were, and I quote, I'm done with that life, Commander. Don't wait up. So either the world is ending or something happened tonight that scared you, and I've never known you to scare easy. Harper closed her eyes. He was right. She had made that promise 14 months ago, standing in his office at Naval Special Warfare Command, her discharge papers in her hand, tears she refused to let fall, burning the backs of her eyes. She had told him she was done. She had told him she was going to be normal. She was going to get a regular job, eat regular meals, sleep in a regular bed, and forget that she had ever been anything other than a regular woman. He had looked at her that day and said, "You'll be back." She had hated him for it. She hated him even more now because he was right. Something happened tonight, she said. I got into a fight at a bar. A fight, you. 5 men, they attacked me and my friend. Westbrook was quiet for a beat, and I put them all down. All 5 Albano, one of them pulled a knife. Is he alive? They're all alive, injured but alive. Good, that's good. Another pause. So why are you calling me Harper? You've handled worse than 5 drunks in a bar. You once cleared a building in Mosul with a broken hand and a jammed rifle. 5 civilians shouldn't have you calling your old CO at midnight. Harper opened her mouth, then closed it. She stared at the ceiling. The words felt heavy, like they were stuck in her chest, too big to fit through her throat. I got a message, she finally said. After the fight, from an unknown number. They called me Lieutenant. They knew my rank, James. They knew who I am. The silence that followed was different from the others. This wasn't a thinking silence. This was a scared silence. And Commander James Westbrook did not scare easily. Read me the message. You think tonight was bad. You have no idea who you just messed with. This isn't over, Lieutenant. Word for word. Word for word. The man who attacked you. What was his name? Derek Voss. The sound that came through the phone was barely audible. A sharp intake of breath. A whispered curse. And then Westbrook said something that made Harper's blood go cold. Get out of that hospital. Right now. Take your friend and go somewhere safe. Do not go home. Do not go anywhere predictable. I'll be in San Diego by morning. James, what's going on? Who is Derek Voss? Not on the phone, not like this. Just do what I'm telling you. Trust me. The last time you told me to trust you, I ended up in a cave in Afghanistan with no extraction team for 48 hours. And you survived because you trusted me. Trust me now, Harper. Please. He had never said please before. In 6 years of serving under his command, through missions in 7 countries across 4 continents, James Westbrook had never once said please. He gave orders. He expected them to be followed. Please was not a word that existed in his vocabulary. Until now. I'll go, Harper said. But when you get here, you're telling me everything. Everything, he agreed. The line went dead. Harper sat on the edge of the hospital bed for a long moment staring at the phone. Her head was pounding. The fluorescent lights felt like needles behind her eyes. But the pain didn't matter. What mattered was the fear she had heard in Westbrook's voice. Real fear. Raw fear. The kind of fear that a decorated Navy commander should never carry. She found Madison in the hallway. Her best friend was sitting in a plastic chair, her legs pulled up to her chest, still wearing the outfit she had picked out so carefully for their night out. Her mascara was smeared. Her hands were shaking. "We need to leave," Harper said. "What the doctor hasn't even given you the results yet." "Now, Madison." Madison looked at her. She searched Harper's face for an explanation, for some sign that this was an overreaction, that Harper was being paranoid. But what she found there was something she had never seen before. Not anger, not determination, fear. "Okay," Madison whispered. "Okay, let's go." They left through a side exit. Harper moved fast, her eyes scanning every corridor, every doorway, every shadow. She grabbed Madison's hand and pulled her through the parking lot toward the street. "Where are we going?" Madison asked, nearly jogging to keep up. "Somewhere they won't look." "They? Who is they?" "I don't know yet, but we're not going to find out by standing still." Harper flagged a cab 2 blocks from the hospital. She gave the driver an address that Madison didn't recognize, a motel on the outskirts of the city that Harper had never mentioned before. When they arrived, Harper paid cash, signed in under a fake name, and led Madison to a room on the 2nd floor. The room was small and ugly and smelled like stale cigarettes, but it had 2 things Harper needed: a deadbolt on the door and a window facing the parking lot. Madison sat on the edge of one of the beds and watched Harper move through the room with a kind of quiet efficiency that was almost robotic. She checked the bathroom. She checked the closet. She locked the deadbolt, then propped a chair under the door handle. She pulled the curtain back just enough to see outside, then turned off every light except the one in the bathroom, which she left on with the door cracked. "Harper." "Yeah, you're scaring me." Harper stopped. She was standing by the window, her silhouette outlined by the dim glow of the parking lot lights. She turned and looked at Madison, really looked at her. And for the first time that night, the soldier dropped away and the friend was there instead. "I know," Harper said softly. "I'm sorry. I know this is insane. I know you didn't sign up for this. You came to San Diego to have drinks and catch up and make fun of me for not knowing how to use a dating app. And instead you're in a motel room to watching me sweep for threats like we're behind enemy lines." "That's not what scares me," Madison said. "Then what?" "What scares me is that you know how to do all of this, that this is natural for you, that you picked this motel because it has sight lines and a secondary exit, that you signed in under a fake name without even thinking about it, that you carry cash specifically for situations like this. Harper, what kind of life were you living?" Harper sat down on the other bed across from Madison. Their knees were almost touching. "The kind of life where you learn that preparation isn't paranoia, it's survival. But you're not in the Navy anymore." "My body's not. My brain didn't get the memo." They sat in silence for a while. Madison lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Harper stayed upright, listening, watching her mind running through scenarios the way it always did. If someone came through the door, if someone came through the window, if someone cut the power. She had a response for each. She always had a response. At 2:14 in the morning, Harper's phone rang. Not a text, a call from the same unknown number. Harper stared at the screen. It rang 3 times. 4, 5. "Don't answer it," Madison said, sitting up. Harper answered it. For a long time there was nothing, just breathing. Slow, steady, controlled breathing. The kind of breathing that belongs to someone who is used to silence, who is comfortable in it, who uses it as a weapon. Then a voice, male, deep, calm in a way that was more frightening than any scream. "Lieutenant Dalton, I hope your head feels better." "Who is this?" "That's not the right question. The right question is, why did we let you live tonight?" Harper's grip on the phone tightened. Beside her, Madison was frozen, eyes wide, barely breathing. "Let me," Harper said. "Your boy Marcus couldn't let me do anything. He's in a hospital bed right now, breathing through his mouth because his nose is in 3 pieces. Marcus is a tool. Tools break. They get replaced. He served his purpose." His purpose? To test you. To see if the stories were true. To see if Lieutenant Harper Dalton, the only woman to complete SEAL qualification training, the ghost of Kandahar, the one they called Shadow, was really as dangerous as her file says. Harper felt something tighten in her chest. Not fear. Something colder. Recognition. Whoever this man was, he had access to information that shouldn't exist outside of classified military databases. Her call sign, her mission history, the details of operations that were buried under layers of top-secret clearance. "You have my attention," Harper said. "Good, because what I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about your father." The room tilted. Harper felt it, a physical shift, like the floor had suddenly angled beneath her. Her father, Colonel Richard Dalton, the man who had raised her, trained her, pushed her to be the best, and then vanished from her life when she was 19 years old without a word, without a letter, without a single explanation. "My father is dead," Harper said. "Is he? He died in a training accident at Fort Bragg, 2017. I attended the funeral. I folded the flag." "You folded a flag? That's all you did? Did you see a body?" Harper's mouth went dry. She tried to swallow and couldn't, because the answer was no. She had not seen a body. The casket had been closed. She had been told it was standard procedure for the type of accident that killed him. She had believed it because she needed to believe it, because the alternative was too terrible to consider. "What do you want?" Harper asked, and her voice was barely a whisper. "I want you to understand what's coming. Your father didn't die in a training accident, Lieutenant. Your father stole something from very powerful people, and then he disappeared. For 8 years we've been looking for him. For 8 years we've been patient. And then tonight his daughter, the one person he loved more than his own life, walked into a bar in San Diego and announced herself to the world. I didn't announce anything. You put 5 of my men in the hospital. That's an announcement. That's a flare. And now everyone who's been looking for Richard Dalton knows exactly where to find the next best thing. I'm not my father. No, you're his weakness." The line went dead. Harper sat perfectly still. Her phone was still pressed against her ear, even though there was nothing left to hear. Her heart was hammering so hard she could feel it in her teeth. Her vision was narrowing, the edges going dark the way it used to in combat, when the adrenaline hit so hard that her body couldn't process anything except the immediate threat. "Harper!" Madison's voice sounded like it was coming from very far away. "Harper, what did he say?" "Who was that?" Harper lowered the phone slowly. She looked at Madison, and in that moment, her best friend saw something she had never seen in Harper Dalton's eyes before. Not fear, something worse than fear, doubt. The kind of doubt that comes when the ground you've been standing on your entire life suddenly cracks open, and you realize it was never solid to begin with. "My father might be alive," Harper said. "What?" "My father, the funeral, the flag, all of it. It might have been a lie." Madison grabbed Harper's shoulders. "Stop, breathe, talk to me. What are you saying?" But Harper couldn't talk. Not yet. Because her mind was racing through every memory she had of her father, every conversation, every training session, every moment, searching for the crack, the flaw, the one piece that didn't fit. And she found it. She found it instantly, because it had always been there, sitting in the back of her mind like a splinter she could never quite reach. The letter. 3 days before the accident, her father had sent her a letter. Not an email, not a text. A handwritten letter sent from an address she didn't recognize, with no return address. She had been in the middle of SEAL training at the time, pushed to her absolute breaking point, surviving on 3 hours of sleep and pure stubbornness. The letter had said only 3 things. Trust no one. Remember what I taught you. And a string of numbers that she had memorized but never understood. 20 digits, no pattern she could identify. She had assumed it was a code military jargon, something that would make sense later. But later never came, because 3 days after the letter arrived, her father was dead. Or so she had been told. "Give me your phone," Harper said to Madison. "Why?" "Because mine is compromised. They have my number. That means they can track my location. Give me your phone and turn mine off." Madison handed it over without arguing. Harper powered down her own phone and removed the SIM card. Then she used Madison's phone to send a text to a number she had memorized but never saved anywhere. The number belonged to a man named Elijah Cross, former Navy intelligence analyst, current ghost, the kind of man who didn't exist on paper, who had no social media, no address, no driver's license, no bank account. He lived completely off the grid, and the only way to reach him was through a number that changed every 30 days. Harper typed 5 words. Shadow active, cardinal compromised, need you. The response came in 11 seconds. Sending coordinates, 2 hours, come alone. Harper looked at Madison. Her friend was pale. Her eyes were red. She was gripping the edge of the mattress so hard her fingers were turning white. "Madi, I need to go somewhere." "No, it's not a request. I don't care what it is. You're not leaving me in this motel room alone while you run off to do whatever it is you're about to do. I'm coming with you. It's dangerous. Everything about tonight has been dangerous. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. Harper looked at her for a long moment. She wanted to argue. She wanted to explain that where she was going, kindness was a liability and friendship was a target. She wanted to tell Madison that the world she was about to step back into had rules that no civilian could understand, where the line between ally and enemy was so thin it was invisible. But she also knew that Madison was the only person in her life who had never lied to her. The only person who had stood beside her through every nightmare, every breakdown, every 2 in the morning phone call where Harper couldn't stop shaking. And right now, with everything she thought she knew crumbling beneath her, Harper needed that. She needed someone who was real. Okay, Harper said, you can come, but you do exactly what I say when I say it. No questions, no hesitation. Deal. At 3:47 in the morning, they left the motel. Harper drove. She had borrowed a car from the motel manager, an old Ford truck that smelled like motor oil and regret. She paid him $200 in cash and told him she would have it back by noon. The coordinates Elijah had sent led to a storage facility on the edge of the city, the kind of place that rented units by the month with no questions asked. Harper pulled into the lot and killed the engine. The facility was dark. No lights, no security cameras, no sign that anyone had been there in months. Stay in the truck, Harper told Madison. You said I could come. You came, now stay in the truck. Madison opened her mouth to protest, then saw Harper's face and closed it again. Harper got out and walked toward Unit 47. The air was cool and damp. Her head was throbbing. She could feel the butterfly stitches pulling with every step, and the dried blood on her neck itched. She reached the unit and knocked twice. Paused, knocked 3 times, paused, knocked once. The door rolled up. Elijah Cross stood in the shadows. He was taller than Harper remembered, thinner too. His hair was longer, pulled back in a knot, and his beard had gone gray at the edges. But his eyes were the same, sharp, alert, the kind of eyes that never stopped analyzing. You look terrible, he said. Someone hit me with a bottle. I heard. You heard? It happened 4 hours ago. I hear everything, Harper. That's why you called me. He stepped aside and Harper walked in. The storage unit was larger than it looked from outside. Elijah had turned it into a makeshift operations center. There were monitors, hard drives, maps pinned to the walls, stacks of files that looked like they had been pulled from places where files are not supposed to be pulled from. Harper stopped in the center of the room and turned to face him. Tell me about Derek Voss. Elijah crossed his arms. Derek Michael Voss, age 34, former Army Ranger dishonorably discharged in 2019 for conduct unbecoming. Son of Colonel Martin Voss, who was court-martialed in 2016 for involvement in a military equipment theft ring. The case that ended Martin Voss's career was built on testimony from one man. My father, Harper said. Your father. Colonel Richard Dalton personally gathered the evidence that put Martin Voss behind bars. Voss lost everything, his career, his pension, his family name. He died in a federal prison in 2020. Heart attack, or at least that's what the report says. And Derek blames my father. Derek blames your entire bloodline. He's been building something, Harper. A private military company called Ironclad Tactical. On paper, it's a security consulting firm. Off paper, it's a mercenary operation with connections to arms dealers in 6 countries. They've been selling stolen military equipment to the highest bidder, and they've been using their connections inside the Pentagon to cover their tracks. Harper felt the room spin. She grabbed the edge of a table to steady herself. How long have you known about this? 18 months. 18 months? You've known for 18 months, and you didn't tell me. You were out, Harper. You made that very clear. You wanted a normal life. You wanted to be free. I wasn't going to drag you back in. Someone hit me with a bottle and then called me on the phone and told me my dead father might be alive. I think the choice has been made for me. Elijah's expression changed. The analytical detachment slipped, and underneath it was something raw. Grief, maybe, or guilt. Your father, he said slowly. What exactly did they tell you? They said he didn't die in a training accident. They said he stole something and disappeared. They said they've been looking for him for 8 years. Elijah walked to one of the monitors and typed something. A file appeared on the screen. Harper moved closer and looked at it. It was a military death certificate. Her father's name, his rank, the date, the cause of death, everything she had been told, everything she had believed. This document is real, Elijah said. It was filed by the Department of Defense. It has the correct signatures, the correct seals, the correct chain of custody. By every official measure, Colonel Richard Dalton is dead. But, Elijah looked at her, but I've been tracking a ghost for the past 18 months. A ghost who moves through Eastern Europe like smoke. A ghost who accesses dormant military accounts using codes that only one person in the world would know. A ghost who 6 months ago sent a single encrypted message to a dead email address that used to belong to you. Harper stopped breathing. I intercepted the message, Elijah said. I decoded it. It took me 3 weeks. You want to know what it said? Tell me. Elijah turned the monitor toward her. On the screen in plain white text against a black background were 4 words. Tell Harper I'm sorry. Harper's knees buckled. She grabbed the table again harder this time, her fingers digging into the metal. The room was spinning. Everything was spinning. Her father, alive, hiding, running. For 8 years, she had grieved a man who was still breathing. For 8 years, she had visited an empty grave and talked to a headstone that meant nothing. Why, she whispered. Why would he do this? Because whatever he stole, Elijah said quietly, was worth more than his own life. And the people he stole it from will burn the world down to get it back. Harper straightened. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. The tears had come without her permission, fast and hot, but they were gone now, replaced by something harder. Something sharper. Then we find him first, she said. Elijah shook his head slowly. Harper, you don't know what you're walking into. I don't care. You should. These people killed 2 intelligence agents last year trying to find your father. They have people inside every branch of the military. They have resources that make the CIA look understaffed. If you go after him, you're not just risking your life. You're risking everything. Harper leaned forward until her face was inches from his. He's my father, Elijah. He sent me a message. He said he's sorry. That means he wants to be found. And I'm going to find him, with you or without you. Elijah stared at her for a long time. Then slowly the corner of his mouth turned up. Just barely. Just enough. Same Harper, he said. Never could tell you no. He reached under the table and pulled out a black duffel bag. He unzipped it and laid it open on the table. Inside were 3 burner phones, a laptop, a set of car keys, a stack of foreign currency, and a manila envelope thick with documents. Then we start now, he said. Harper reached for the envelope. Inside were photographs. Surveillance photos, blurry and distant, taken from rooftops and across crowded streets. They showed a man, older, gray-haired, wearing a coat she recognized because she had given it to him for Christmas when she was 16. Her father, alive. Harper held the photo with both hands, and for the second time that night, her hands were shaking. But this time it wasn't from fear, it wasn't from adrenaline, it was from something she had buried so deep she had forgotten it existed. Hope. Harper stared at the photograph until her eyes burned. She traced the outline of her father's face with her fingertip, the gray hair she didn't recognize, the slight stoop in his shoulders that hadn't been there before. But his jaw was the same. That stubborn, squared-off jaw that she had inherited, the one her mother used to say could cut glass. Where was this taken? She asked. Prague, Elijah said, 6 months ago. He was moving through the Old Town district. I had a contact position near a cafe on Karlova Street. He walked past at exactly 7:14 in the morning. My contact got 3 shots before he disappeared into the crowd. 3 shots in 11 seconds. That's all we got. He knew he was being watched. He always knows. Your father was one of the best intelligence operatives the military ever produced, Harper. He built the evasion protocols that half the Special Forces community still uses today. Tracking him is like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. Harper set the photo down and picked up another. This one was taken from farther away. Her father was crossing a bridge, his collar turned up, his hands in his pockets. He looked older, tired. But he was walking with purpose, the way he always did, like every step had been calculated 12 moves in advance. You said he stole something, Harper said. What did he steal? Elijah hesitated. It was brief, less than a second, but Harper caught it. She had spent years reading micro-expressions in interrogation rooms. She knew what hesitation looked like on a man who never hesitated. "Tell me," she said. "A ledger. A digital ledger containing records of every black market arms deal facilitated by Ironclad Tactical over a 7-year period. Names, dates, amounts, delivery coordinates, buyer identities. We're talking about billions of dollars in illegal weapons, sales to terrorist organizations, rogue states, and private militias across 4 continents. Your father obtained a copy of that ledger, and the moment he did, he became the most hunted man on the planet. Why didn't he turn it over to the authorities? Because the authorities are compromised. That's what the ledger proves. There are names on that list, Harper. Pentagon officials, congressional aides, active duty generals. People who are supposed to protect this country are the same people profiting from its enemies. Your father realized that if he handed the ledger to anyone inside the system, it would be destroyed and he would be killed. So he did the only thing he could. He ran. He faked his death with help from someone inside the D. Owed someone he trusted, and he vanished. He's been moving ever since, staying one step ahead, keeping the ledger safe, waiting for the right moment to bring it to light. 8 years, Elijah. He's been running for 8 years. What moment is he waiting for? I don't know, but I think he's close. The message he sent, the one that said, "Tell Harper I'm sorry," that wasn't just guilt talking. That was a signal. He's getting ready to move, and he's reaching out because he knows he can't do it alone anymore. Harper picked up the photographs again. All 3 of them. She held them side by side and studied them the way she used to study satellite imagery before a mission. Looking for patterns, looking for tells, looking for the thing that everyone else missed. And she found it. His left hand, she said. What about it? In every photo, his left hand is in his pocket. My father is left-handed. He never puts his dominant hand in his pocket. It's a vulnerability. He taught me that when I was 12. If your dominant hand is hidden, you can't defend yourself. He would never do that unless he was holding something. Elijah leaned in and looked at the photos. His eyes narrowed. Or unless he's injured, he said quietly. Harper felt her stomach drop. She looked at the photos again, closer this time, and she noticed what she had missed. In the 3rd photo, the one taken from the bridge, her father's left sleeve was darker than his right. Not shadow, not fabric difference, blood. He's hurt, Harper whispered. We don't know that for certain. I know it. I know my father. He's injured, he's alone, and he's running out of time. We need to find him, now. Elijah held up his hand. Harper, stop. I need you to hear me. Really hear me. What you're talking about isn't a rescue mission. It's a suicide run. Ironclad Tactical has operatives in 14 countries. They have resources, technology, and manpower that would make most intelligence agencies jealous. And they're not the only ones looking. There are at least 3 foreign intelligence services that want that ledger. Your father isn't just hiding from Derek Voss and his mercenaries. He's hiding from governments. I don't care if he's hiding from God himself. He's my father. And you're his daughter, which makes you the biggest target in the world right now. That phone call you got tonight, that wasn't a threat. That was reconnaissance. They wanted to hear your voice. They wanted to gauge your reaction. They wanted to know if you knew anything about the ledger. I didn't even know it existed until 5 minutes ago. They don't know that, and they won't take your word for it. From this moment forward, they will assume you know where your father is, what he stole, and where he hid it. They will come for you, Harper. Not with bottles and bar fights, with real weapons and real intent. At 4:22 in the morning, Madison banged on the storage unit door. Harper opened it fast, her body already in a combat stance, muscles coiled and ready. But it was just Madison, her face white, her hands clutching her phone. Someone's outside, Madison said, her voice shaking. A black SUV. It pulled into the lot 2 minutes ago and parked at the far end. The headlights are off, but the engine is running. Elijah was already moving. He grabbed the laptop, slammed it shut, and shoved it into the duffel bag. He swept the photographs off the table and stuffed them into the manila envelope. His movements were fast, but controlled, practiced, like he had rehearsed this exact scenario 100 times. How did they find us? Harper asked. They didn't find us. They found her. Elijah pointed at Madison. Her phone. You said you turned yours off, but you didn't turn hers off. If they have access to cellular tracking, And they do. They've been following her signal since you left the hospital. Harper looked at Madison. Madison looked at her phone like it was a grenade. Turn it off, Harper said. Now pull the battery if you can. Madison's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. Harper took it from her, powered it down, and popped the back cover. She yanked the battery and threw both pieces into the corner of the storage unit. We go out the back, Elijah said. He grabbed the duffel bag and slung it over his shoulder. There's a gap in the fence behind the fourth row of units. I cut it myself 3 months ago for exactly this reason. My car's parked on the other side on the street. How do you live like this? Madison whispered. Elijah looked at her with something close to pity. You get used to it. I don't want to get used to it. Then stay close and stay quiet, and maybe you won't have to. They moved fast. Harper took point, her body low, her eyes adjusting to the darkness. Behind her, Madison gripped the back of Harper's jacket and followed blindly. Elijah brought up the rear, the duffel bag silent against his back. They reached the gap in the fence. Elijah pulled it open and ushered Madison through first, then Harper. He slipped through last and let the fence spring back into place. His car was a gray sedan, unremarkable in every way, which was exactly the point. They climbed in. Elijah started the engine but didn't turn on the headlights. He pulled away from the curb, slowly checking the mirrors every 2 seconds. Where are we going? Madison asked from the back seat. Somewhere with walls, Elijah said. He drove for 40 minutes, winding through streets Harper didn't recognize, doubling back twice, taking random turns that seemed to follow no pattern. Harper knew what he was doing. SDR, surveillance detection route, a technique designed to expose anyone following you by making your movements so unpredictable that a tail would have to reveal themselves to keep up. At 5:08 in the morning, Elijah pulled into an underground parking structure beneath a building that looked abandoned from the outside. He parked in the farthest corner, killed the engine, and sat for 3 full minutes in silence watching the ramp. Nothing. We're clear, he said, for now. He led them through a service door down a hallway that smelled like concrete dust and into an elevator that shouldn't have worked but did. They went up 4 floors. The elevator opened into a loft that Elijah had clearly been using as a safe house. There were supplies, water, food, a cot in the corner, and more monitors connected to cameras that showed feeds from the parking structure, the street outside, and the building's entrance. Madison collapsed onto the cot. She was shaking badly now, the adrenaline crash hitting her hard. Harper knelt beside her and put a hand on her shoulder. I'm going to get you out of this, Harper said. How? I don't know yet, but I will. You keep saying that. You keep saying you'll figure it out. But this isn't a bar fight, Harper. These people tracked my phone. They had a car outside that storage unit within an hour. They know your name, your rank, your father. This is real. This is the kind of real that gets people killed. I know. Then stop pretending you have a plan and tell me the truth. Are we going to be okay? Harper looked at her best friend, the girl who had braided her hair in 10th grade, the woman who had held her hand when they told her she'd never serve again. The only person in the world who loved Harper, not for what she could do, but for who she was. No, Harper said quietly. We're not okay, not right now, but I'm going to make it okay, I promise you that. Madison grabbed Harper's hand and held it tight. Her grip was fierce, almost painful. The grip of someone holding on to the only solid thing in a world that had stopped making sense. I believe you, Madison said. I don't know why, but I believe you. At 5:39 in the morning, Elijah called Harper to the monitors. You need to see this. Harper walked over and looked at the screen. Elijah had pulled up a news feed. The headline made her blood freeze. A local reporter was standing outside Murphy's Tavern, the bar where everything had started. Behind her, the parking lot was filled with police vehicles and yellow tape. But that wasn't the story. The story was the scrolling text at the bottom of the screen. Marcus Webb, one of the men injured in the bar altercation, was found dead in his hospital room at approximately 4 a.m. Cause of death is under investigation. Dead, Harper said. I didn't kill him. I broke his nose, that's it. You didn't kill him, Elijah confirmed. Someone else did. Who? Think about it. Marcus was the one who hit you with the bottle. He was also the one most likely to talk. Drunk, stupid, scared, and in police custody. If someone asked him questions about Derek Voss, about Ironclad Tactical, he would have folded in minutes. He was a liability. So they killed him. They silenced him. And they did it while he was in a hospital bed surrounded by nurses and security. That tells you everything you need to know about how far their reach extends. Harper stared at the screen. Marcus Webb, yellow teeth, stupid grin. The man who had smashed a bottle against her head just hours ago. Dead, murdered in his hospital bed to keep him from talking. They'll blame me, Harper said suddenly. The police, the media. I'm the one who put him in that hospital. I'm the one with the military record and the combat training. They'll look at me first. They're already looking. That's why we're here. That's why we don't move until we have a plan. Harper's mind was racing. She could feel the pieces clicking together, falling into place like the components of a mission plan. Her father, the ledger, ironclad tactical. Derek Voss, the dead man in the hospital. Every piece connected to the next, and at the center of it all was a single question that burned hotter than everything else. Where was her father? At 6:02 in the morning, Commander Westbrook called. Harper answered on the first ring. Tell me you're in San Diego. I'm 20 minutes out. Where are you? Safe house. I'll send you coordinates. Harper, listen to me carefully. Marcus Webb is dead. I know, I saw the news. It's worse than the news. San Diego PD has issued a person of interest bulletin in your name. They haven't called it a warrant yet, but it's coming. The DA is under pressure. A former Navy SEAL puts 5 men in the hospital, and then one of them turns up dead. That's a headline they can't ignore. I didn't kill him, James. I know you didn't, but the public doesn't know that, and the people behind this are counting on that confusion. They're framing you, Harper. They're using your own skills against you. Everything you did in that bar to defend yourself is now being weaponized to make you look like a trained killer who went too far. What do I do? You trust me, you let me get to you, and then we figure this out together, but Harper, there's something else. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Tell me now. Not on the phone, 20 minutes. James? 20 minutes, Harper. He hung up. Harper lowered the phone and stared at it. Everyone had secrets. Everyone was holding something back. Her father, her commanding officer, even Elijah, the man who had known about all of this for 18 months and said nothing. You're angry, Elijah said from behind her. I'm furious. At who? Everyone. My father for disappearing and letting me grieve a lie. You for knowing the truth and keeping it from me. Westbrook for whatever it is he's about to tell me that he should have told me years ago. Every single person I trusted had a piece of this puzzle, and not one of you thought I deserved to see the whole picture. We were trying to protect you. Harper spun around. Her eyes were burning not with tears, but with a fire that Elijah had seen only once before in a briefing room in Yemen when Harper learned that a mission had been compromised by someone on their own team. Protect me. You left me in the dark for 8 years. I mourned my father. I stood at his grave on his birthday every single year and talked to dirt. I told that headstone about my SEAL training. I told it about my discharge. I told it I was sorry I couldn't be stronger. I poured my heart into the ground because I thought that was the only way I could still talk to him. And he was alive. He was alive in Prague, drinking coffee and crossing bridges and watching the world go by while his daughter was breaking apart. He didn't have a choice, Harper. Everyone has a choice. He chose to leave me. He chose to save you. If he had stayed, if he had gone public with the ledger, they would have killed him. And then they would have come for you, not to hurt you, to use you, to leverage you against anyone who might have a copy. Your father didn't disappear because he stopped loving you. He disappeared because loving you was the only thing he had left, and he would rather you think he was dead than put you in the crosshairs. Harper turned away. She put both hands on the table and leaned forward, head down, breathing hard. She could feel the wound on the back of her head pulsing with every heartbeat. She could feel the exhaustion, the bone-deep weariness, and that comes not from physical effort, but from emotional devastation. The string of numbers, she said without looking up. What? 3 days before the supposed accident, my father sent me a letter. It had a string of 20 numbers. No explanation. I memorized them. I never understood what they meant. Elijah went very still. You have a 20-digit code from your father and you never thought to mention it. I didn't know it was relevant. I thought it was some kind of military reference number. I thought it was sentimental. I thought a lot of things. Tell me the numbers. Harper recited them from memory. She had never written them down. She had never typed them into a phone or a computer. They existed only in her mind exactly as her father had written them in his cramped, precise handwriting. Elijah typed the numbers into his laptop. His fingers moved faster than Harper expected. He ran them through 3 different decryption algorithms, 2 database searches, and a coordinate mapping tool. For 2 full minutes, nothing happened. The screen cycled through results all negative. Then the 4th algorithm hit. Elijah's face changed. Not subtly, dramatically. His eyes went wide, his mouth opened. The color drained from his face so quickly it was like watching someone pull a plug. "What?" Harper demanded. "What is it?" "It's a bank, a private vault in Zurich. The numbers are an access code. Account holder anonymous. Contents 1 encrypted hard drive deposited 8 years ago. The ledger. Your father gave you the key to the ledger, Harper. He gave it to you 8 years ago, and you've been carrying it in your head this entire time without knowing it." Harper straightened. The weight of it hit her like a physical blow. Every moment of her life since that letter arrived had been building to this. Every struggle, every nightmare, every lonely night in her apartment, staring at the wall she had been carrying, the most dangerous piece of information in the world, and she hadn't even known. "That's why they came for me," she said. "The bar fight, the phone call, Marcus's murder. They weren't trying to find my father through me. They already know where the ledger is. They need the code, and they think my father told me." "Did he?" "He wrote 20 numbers in a letter. He didn't tell me what they were for. But they don't know that. All they know is that Colonel Dalton's daughter, the person he loved most in this world, might be holding the key to a vault that could bring down a billion-dollar criminal network and expose some of the most powerful people in the American military. Harper, you're not just a target anymore. You're the target." At 6:27 in the morning, the building's front door camera showed a man walking in alone, tall, broad-shouldered, gray at the temples, walking with the confident, measured stride of a man who had commanded respect his entire life. Commander James Westbrook had arrived. Elijah buzzed him in. 2 minutes later, the elevator doors opened and Westbrook stepped into the loft. He looked at Elijah first, then at Madison, who was curled up on the cot trying not to fall apart, and then at Harper. He stopped. He stared at her for a long time, at the blood on her shirt, at the butterfly stitches on the back of her head, at the look in her eyes that was no longer the look of a woman trying to be a civilian. "You look like your father," he said. "Don't," Harper said. "Don't start with that. You said you had something to tell me, something you should have told me a long time ago. So tell me, right now. No more secrets, no more protection. Tell me everything or get out." Westbrook took a deep breath. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He held it for a moment like it weighed 1,000 pounds, and then he handed it to Harper. She unfolded it. It was a letter, handwritten, her father's handwriting, but this one was not addressed to her. It was addressed to Westbrook, and it was dated 3 weeks ago. "He's been in contact with you," Harper said, her voice barely controlled. "My father has been in contact with you. For how long?" 2 years. 2 years. Harper. 2 years you've been talking to my dead father, and you let me grieve. You stood next to me at that grave. You handed me tissues when I cried. You told me he would be proud of me. And the whole time you knew he was alive. "Read the letter," Westbrook said. Harper looked down. Her father's handwriting filled the page. She read the first line and her hands began to shake. "James, they found the vault. I'm out of time. I'm sending you this because I can't send it to her. Not yet. Not until I know she's ready. But if something happens to me before I can finish this, you need to tell Harper the truth. All of it. And you need to tell her one more thing." Harper turned the page. "Tell her the numbers she carries are not just a code. They are a key. And the lock they open doesn't just contain a ledger. It contains proof of what really happened in Kabul. The mission that ended my career. The mission that never officially existed. She needs to know, James. She deserves to know. Because the people who destroyed me are the same people who will come for her. And when they do, she needs to be ready. She was always the strongest of us all." Harper lowered the letter. Her hands were shaking so violently the paper rattled. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but her jaw was set. Her eyes burning with something that went beyond anger, beyond grief, beyond betrayal. "Kabul," she said. "What happened in Kabul?" Westbrook looked at her with eyes full of a pain he had carried for far too long. That, he said, is where everything began. Westbrook sat down heavily on a metal folding chair. He rubbed his face with both hands, the way a man does when he's about to say something that's been eating him alive for years. Harper stood over him, the letter still trembling in her grip, waiting. Elijah leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, watching. Madison had sat up on the cot, her exhaustion replaced by a terrified alertness. Kabul, Westbrook began, November 2018. Your father was leading a classified operation under a program called Nightfall. It didn't exist on paper. No congressional oversight. No official chain of command. It was run out of a black budget office inside the Pentagon by a man named General Arthur Gaines. I know that name, Harper said. You should. He signed your father's death certificate. Harper felt like she'd been punched in the chest. General Arthur Gaines, she had met him once at her father's memorial service. He had shaken her hand, looked her in the eye, and told her that her father was one of the finest officers he had ever known. He had spoken at the ceremony. He had called Richard Dalton a hero, and he had signed the document that erased him from the world. Keep going, Harper said through clenched teeth. Nightfall was supposed to be a weapons interdiction program. Your father's team was tasked with tracking stolen American military equipment in the region, finding it and destroying it before it ended up in enemy hands. Simple enough on the surface, but 3 months into the operation, your father discovered something that changed everything. The equipment wasn't being stolen, Harper said. It wasn't a question. She could feel the shape of the truth before Westbrook even said it. No, it wasn't being stolen. It was being sold, deliberately, by people inside our own military. Gaines had built a pipeline. American weapons manufactured for the United States Armed Forces were being rerouted through shell companies and sold to militant groups across the Middle East and North Africa. Ironclad Tactical was the middleman. They handled logistics, transport, and payment processing through offshore accounts. And the profits were being funneled back to a network of officials in Washington who were using the money for everything from political campaigns to personal enrichment. How many people were involved? At the time your father discovered it, we estimated between 40 and 60 individuals across the military intelligence community and Congress. Some were active participants. Others were silent beneficiaries who looked the other way in exchange for a cut. And my father found proof. Your father did more than find proof. He copied the entire financial record of the operation. Every transaction, every name, every dollar. He embedded it in an encrypted hard drive that couldn't be accessed without a specific 20-digit code. The numbers he sent me. The numbers he sent you. Harper looked at the letter again. Her father's handwriting blurred through her tears. She blinked hard and forced herself to focus. What happened in Kabul, James? What happened on the mission? Westbrook went quiet. Not the strategic silence of a man choosing his words carefully. The raw, gutted silence of a man reliving the worst night of his life. November 14th. Your father was running a routine interdiction with a 6-man team. They were supposed to hit a warehouse outside Kabul where a shipment of stolen Javelin missiles was being stored. Standard operation, in and out, 45 minutes maximum. But it wasn't routine. It was a trap. Gaines knew your father was getting close to the truth. He knew your father had accessed the financial records. So he fed him false intelligence. He sent your father's team into a warehouse that was rigged to blow. The plan was simple. Kill the team, destroy the evidence, blame it on enemy action. No investigation, no questions. But my father survived. Your father survived because he was the most paranoid operator I have ever known. He always ran his own intelligence verification before a mission. Always. He noticed a discrepancy in the satellite imagery, a shadow that shouldn't have been there, a vehicle that didn't match the pattern. 30 minutes before the assault, he pulled 2 members of his team and repositioned them as overwatch. When the warehouse detonated, those 2 men were far enough away to survive. And the other 4, Westbrook's voice cracked. Just barely. Just enough for Harper to hear the grief that lived underneath his composure. Gone. Instantly. 4 American soldiers killed by their own command. Harper's knees buckled. She caught herself on the table, her palms flat, her head hanging between her shoulders. 4 men, 4 soldiers who trusted her father, who followed him into a building that their own general had turned into a death trap. Their names, she whispered. Harper, you don't need to. Their names. Sergeant First Class David Moreno, Staff Sergeant Kevin Park, Sergeant Thomas Wiley, Specialist James Cotton, ages 26 to 33, all of them with families, all of them buried with honors for dying in what was officially classified as an enemy ambush. It was murder. It was murder. And your father knew it the moment it happened. He pulled the two survivors, Corporal Marcus Haynes and Sergeant Brianna Cole, and he ran. They went dark for 9 days. No communication, no extraction, nothing. The military declared them MIA. Gaines assumed they were dead. But they weren't. On day 9, your father made contact with me through an emergency channel that only the two of us knew about. He told me everything. The pipeline, the sales, the trap, the 4 men who died. He told me he had the ledger and he was getting it out of the country. He asked me to do one thing. What? He asked me to protect you. He said that when they realized he was alive, when they realized the ledger still existed, they would come for the people he loved. And the person he loved most in this world was you. At 6:51 in the morning, Harper straightened up. She wiped her face. Her tears had left tracks through the dried blood on her skin, and she looked like a woman who had walked through a war zone, which in every way that mattered she had. So you helped him fake his death, she said. I helped him disappear. The death certificate, the funeral, the closed casket. All of it was staged with the help of a DoD contact who owed me a very large favor. Your father provided DNA samples that were planted at the explosion site. The investigation was cursory. Gaines wanted it closed quickly, and since he believed your father was dead, he didn't push for a deeper examination. And the two survivors, Haynes and Cole, Westbrook hesitated again, longer this time. Marcus Haynes was found dead in a motel room in Tucson, Arizona, 7 months after the Kabul mission. Official cause of death was suicide. Single gunshot wound. It wasn't suicide. No, it wasn't. Haynes had been talking to a journalist. Someone found out. And Brianna Cole disappeared 3 years ago, completely. No trace, no signal, no body. She's either dead or she's better at hiding than your father. Harper closed her eyes. The weight of it was crushing. Not just the conspiracy, not just the betrayal, but the human cost. Real people with real lives destroyed because they happened to stumble onto the truth. And at the center of all of it, her father carrying the proof that could bring it all down or running alone through a world that wanted him dead. General Gaines, Harper said, opening her eyes. Where is he now? Elijah answered from behind his laptop. Active duty, currently serving as deputy commander of SOCOM. He was promoted 18 months ago. Promoted. The man who murdered 4 American soldiers and tried to kill my father got promoted. He got promoted because he's untouchable. His connections run all the way to the top. He has allies in the Senate Armed Services Committee, the intelligence community, and the defense contracting industry. The man is a fortress. Every fortress has a door, Harper said. And every door has guards, Elijah countered. Harper going after Gaines directly would be insane. He has the full weight of the United States military apparatus behind him. One wrong move and you don't just go to prison. You disappear, the same way Brianna Cole disappeared. At 7:15 in the morning, Harper's borrowed phone buzzed. She looked at the screen. It was a message from an unknown number, but this one was different from the threatening calls. This one was a single line of text with no sender identification. Shadow train station, platform 9, noon. Harper read it 3 times. Then she showed it to Elijah. That's your father's call sign format, Elijah said. Shadow was your operational name. He's the only one outside of SEAL Command who would use it. It's him, Harper said. He's here. He's in San Diego. Or it's a trap, Westbrook said. It could be anyone. If Ironclad has access to classified communication protocols, they could mimic your father's signaling patterns to draw you into the open. They could, but they didn't use the authenticator. Westbrook frowned. What authenticator? Harper looked at him. When I was 16, my father and I agreed on a personal authentication code. Something no file would contain, no database would store. He used it as a game when I was a kid. If either of us ever needed to verify the other's identity, we would embed a specific word into the communication. A word that only the two of us would recognize. What word? Elijah asked. Firefly. My father used to take me camping in Virginia when I was little. We would sit by the river and watch the fireflies. He told me that fireflies were nature's signal flares. He said that when everything is dark, the bravest thing you can do is be the light. It became our word, our code. That message doesn't contain the word firefly, Westbrook observed. Not explicitly. Look at the first letter of each word. Elijah looked at the message again. Shadow, train station, platform 9, noon, STPN. I don't see it, he said. You're reading it wrong. My father never operated in plain text. The message isn't the words, it's the structure. Count the letters in each word. Shadow 6, train 5, station 7, platform 8, 9-4, noon 4, 6-5-7-8-4-4, Elijah repeated. Now convert them. Sixth letter of the alphabet is F, fifth is E, seventh is not right. Harper paused, her brow furrowed. She counted again slower this time. No, that's not it either. He's using a different cipher. She grabbed a pen from Elijah's desk and started writing on the back of an envelope. Her hand moved fast, scribbling numbers and letters, crossing things out, trying combinations. Westbrook and Elijah watched in silence. At 7:33, Harper stopped writing. She stared at what she had written. Then she looked up, and there were tears in her eyes again. But this time they were different. These were not tears of grief or anger. These were tears of recognition. It's him, she said. It's really him. How do you know? Westbrook asked. Because the cipher he used is one we invented together on a camping trip when I was 13. We never wrote it down. We never told anyone. It exists only in my head and his. And when you decode the message using our cipher, it reads one word. What word? Firefly. The room went still. Elijah sat back in his chair. Westbrook lowered his head. Madison pressed her hand over her mouth. Your father is alive, Westbrook said, his voice rough, and he's reaching out to you. He's here in San Diego and he wants to meet me at noon. It's too dangerous, Elijah said immediately. A train station is a controlled environment. Cameras everywhere. Limited exits. If Ironclad is watching, and they are watching, you'd be walking into a kill box. He chose a public location because he knows I'd be harder to grab in a crowd. My father doesn't make mistakes like that. If he picked that station, he has a reason. Or he's desperate, Westbrook said. A desperate man makes desperate choices. Then that's even more reason to go. If he's desperate, he's running out of options. And if I don't show up, he disappears again. Maybe forever this time. At 8:02 in the morning, Harper made a decision. She was going. No debate, no discussion. She was going to that train station, and she was going to see her father for the first time in 8 years. But she wasn't going blind. She had 4 hours to prepare, and she intended to use every second. Elijah, I need floor plans of the station. Every entrance, every exit, every service corridor. I need camera positions and security patrol schedules. Already pulling them up. James, I need you to run interference. If San Diego PD is looking for me, I need to move through that station without being flagged. Can you make some calls? I'll handle it. Madison. Harper turned to her friend. Madison looked back at her with exhausted, terrified eyes. I need you to stay here. No. Madi, this isn't the bar. This isn't a motel. Where I'm going, if something goes wrong, people could die. Real people. I can't protect you and complete the mission at the same time. You keep calling it a mission. It's not a mission, Harper. It's your dad. You're going to see your dad. And I'm your best friend. I've been here since the beginning of this nightmare, and I'm not leaving now. Madison. Don't you Madison me. I held your hand when you cried at that grave. I sat with you on the anniversary of his death every single year. I drove 4 hours just to make sure you ate dinner. If he's alive, I want to see your face when you see him. I earned that. I earned it. Harper stared at her. She wanted to argue. Every tactical instinct in her body screamed that bringing a civilian into a potential combat zone was irresponsible, reckless, dangerous. But Madison was right. She had earned it. Not through training or skill, but through love. Through years of unwavering, stubborn, relentless love that had kept Harper alive in ways that no amount of combat training ever could. You stay behind me, always. If I say run, you run. If I say drop, you hit the floor. No questions. Deal. At 9:14 in the morning, Elijah pulled up a series of surveillance feeds from the train station's security network. How did you get access to those? Westbrook asked. You don't want to know. You're right, I don't. Elijah walked them through the layout. Platform 9 was at the far end of the station, partially under construction, which meant fewer cameras and less foot traffic. It also meant fewer witnesses if something went wrong. Your father chose this platform because it has a service tunnel that connects to the maintenance yard. If he needs to disappear, he can be gone in seconds. That's smart. That's classic Richard Dalton. It also means we have an escape route, Harper said, if you can reach it. The tunnel entrance is 40 meters from the platform edge. In a worst-case scenario, that's 40 meters of open ground with no cover. I've crossed worse, not with a concussion and a civilian. Harper ignored that. She studied the layout, committing it to memory the way she had been trained. Every angle, every blind spot, every choke point. By the time she was done, she could have navigated the station with her eyes closed. At 10:22, Westbrook's phone rang. He answered, listened for 30 seconds, and hung up without saying a word. His face had gone gray. James, what is it? That was my contact at Naval Intelligence. General Gaines flew into San Diego this morning. Private jet, no official schedule, no public itinerary. Gaines is here. He landed 45 minutes ago. That's not a coincidence, Elijah said. He knows your father is in the city. How? Harper demanded. How could he know? Because someone told him, Westbrook said quietly. Someone in this chain is compromised. Someone who knows about the message about the meeting about Platform 9. The three of them looked at each other. Harper looked at Elijah. Elijah looked at Westbrook. Westbrook looked at Harper. Don't, Westbrook said, reading her expression. Don't even think it. Someone told Gaines. There are only 3 people who know about that message. You, Elijah, and me. I know. I didn't tell him, which means one of you did. Harper, I have given my entire career to protecting your father and protecting you. I have lied to admirals, falsified documents, and put my pension on the line every single day for 8 years. If you think for 1 second that then explain how Gaines knew to come to San Diego today. Right now, explain it. Westbrook opened his mouth, then he closed it, because he couldn't explain it. And that silence was louder than any accusation. Elijah spoke. It's not James, and it's not me. Think bigger. Who else knew Harper was in San Diego? Who else knew about the bar fight, the hospital, the police report? Derek Voss, Harper said. Derek Voss, who is connected to Ironclad Tactical, which is funded and protected by General Gaines. The bar fight made the news. Harper's name was in the police report. Her military record was accessed. The moment her name hit a database, Gaines would have been alerted. He doesn't need a mole. He has the entire system. At 11:09, Harper stood in front of a mirror in the safe house bathroom. She had washed the blood off her face and neck. She had changed into clothes Elijah had provided: dark jeans, a black long-sleeve shirt, boots with good traction. She looked at herself and barely recognized the woman staring back. 24 hours ago, she had been sitting in her apartment eating cereal and watching bad television, trying to pretend that her life was normal, trying to pretend that the nightmares didn't come every night, trying to pretend that the woman in the mirror was just Harper, just a girl from Virginia who liked camping and fireflies, and her best friend Madison. That woman was gone. The woman in the mirror now had blood under her fingernails, had a wound on her head held together by butterfly stitches, had the names of 4 dead soldiers carved into her memory, had a father who was alive and waiting for her at a train station 40 minutes away. Are you ready? Westbrook asked from the doorway. I've been ready my whole life, Harper said. I just didn't know it. At 11:31, they left the safe house. Elijah drove. Westbrook rode in the passenger seat, his phone pressed to his ear, quietly coordinating with contacts who could help them move through the city without being flagged. Madison sat in the back with Harper, their hands intertwined on the seat between them. Neither of them speaking, because there was nothing left to say that hadn't already been said with the grip of their fingers. At 11:47, Elijah parked 4 blocks from the station. He turned off the engine and looked at Harper through the rear-view mirror. I'll be on comms. Earpiece channel 3. If anything feels wrong, you say the word, and I pull you out. What's the word? Madison asked. Elijah looked at Harper. Harper looked at him. Firefly, she said. At 11:53, Harper walked into the train station. Madison was 2 steps behind her, dressed in a baseball cap and sunglasses that Elijah had given her. Harper's earpiece crackled softly, and Elijah's voice came through low and steady. I have eyes on you. Platform 9 is straight ahead past the main concourse. Foot traffic is light. No obvious surveillance teams, but that doesn't mean they're not here. Harper moved through the crowd with practiced ease. Not too fast, not too slow. Blending, disappearing into the flow of ordinary people living ordinary lives, completely unaware that the woman walking past them was carrying the key to the biggest military conspiracy in American history inside her head. At 11:58, she reached Platform 9. It was mostly empty. A handful of travelers sat on benches staring at phones or reading newspapers. Construction barriers blocked the far end of the platform. Beyond them, Harper could see the service tunnel entrance that Elijah had identified. She stopped. She stood in the center of the platform and waited. Noon arrived. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 3. Harper's heart was pounding. Her palms were sweating. Her eyes scanned every face, every movement, every shadow. Anything, she whispered into the earpiece. Nothing yet, Elijah replied. Stay patient. At 12:04, an old man shuffled onto the platform from the far staircase. He wore a gray coat. His hair was white. He walked with a slight limp favoring his left side. His left hand was in his pocket. Harper stopped breathing. He was older, so much older. The years had carved deep lines into his face and stolen the color from his hair. He moved differently now, slower, more carefully, like a man who had learned that every step could be his last. But his eyes were exactly the same. Sharp, warm, full of an intelligence that missed nothing and forgot even less. Colonel Richard Dalton looked across Platform 9 and saw his daughter. He stopped walking. For 5 endless seconds, they stared at each other across 30 feet of concrete. Father and daughter, ghost and soldier. 2 people who had been ripped apart by a war they didn't start, connected by a love that 8 years of silence couldn't destroy. Harper took 1 step forward. Her father held up his hand. Stop. Then he spoke. 1 word, just loud enough for her to hear across the distance. Run. Behind Harper, the sound of boots on concrete. Many boots, moving fast, coming from every direction. She spun around and saw them. Men in tactical gear, emerging from behind construction barriers or rising from benches where they had been sitting disguised as travelers, pouring down the staircases on both sides of the platform. Elijah's voice exploded in her ear. Harper, it's a sweep team. At least 12 operators. They're ironclad. Get out now. Harper grabbed Madison's hand and ran toward her father. He was already moving, limping hard toward the service tunnel, pulling something from inside his coat. Not a weapon. An envelope. He shoved it into Harper's hands as she reached him, his fingers gripping hers for 1 desperate second. The vault, he gasped. They cracked the first layer. You need to get there before they break through. Everything depends on this. Dad, come with me. I can't run fast enough. Not anymore. Go. Now. I'm not leaving you. Richard Dalton looked at his daughter. For 1 moment, the spy, the fugitive, the ghost, all of it fell away. And he was just a father looking at his little girl. You were always the bravest of us, he said. Now prove it. Go. He pushed her toward the tunnel. Then he turned and walked directly toward the advancing operators. His hands raised his back straight, buying her time with the only thing he had left. His life. Harper ran. She pulled Madison into the service tunnel, the darkness swallowing them whole. Behind them she heard shouting. Commands. The sound of a man being forced to the ground. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Harper ran through the darkness of the service tunnel with Madison's hand locked in hers. Their footsteps echoed off concrete walls. Behind them, the sounds from the platform were fading, swallowed by distance and stone, but Harper could still hear them. The shouts, the commands, the heavy thud of a body being forced to the ground. Her father's body. Harper, keep moving. Elijah's voice crackled in her earpiece. I'm tracking your position. The tunnel splits in 200 meters. Go left. It leads to the maintenance yard. I have a vehicle staged on the service road. Harper didn't respond. She just ran. Madison was struggling to keep up her breathing, ragged, her sneakers slapping against the wet concrete. But she didn't let go of Harper's hand. She held on like her life depended on it, because it did. They hit the split. Harper went left without hesitation. 50 meters later, a metal door appeared. Harper kicked it open, and daylight blinded them both. They stumbled into a gravel yard filled with rail equipment and parked maintenance vehicles. A gray van sat idling at the far end, its side door already open. Get in, Elijah shouted from the driver's seat. Harper shoved Madison in first. then threw herself in after. The door slammed. Elijah hit the gas before Harper was even sitting up. The van tore out of the yard and onto a side street tires, screaming against asphalt. "My father," Harper said, pulling herself upright. "They took him. I saw them take him down." "I know. I saw it on the camera feed. 12 operators, professional, coordinated. They had the whole platform locked down in under 90 seconds. "Where did they take him?" "I don't know yet. The cameras went dark 30 seconds after they grabbed him. Someone cut the feed remotely." Gaines. Has to be. Harper's hands were shaking. She looked down and realized she was still clutching the envelope her father had shoved into her hands in those final desperate seconds. She tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded twice. She unfolded it and read. It was a set of coordinates, latitude and longitude. Below them, a single line in her father's handwriting. "The second key is where we watch the fireflies." Harper's throat closed. The second key. The vault in Zurich required a 20-digit code which she carried in her memory, but there was a second layer of encryption. Her father had mentioned it in his letter to Westbrook, and the location of the second key was the place they had camped together when she was a child. The riverbank in the Blue Ridge Mountains, where they would sit for hours watching the fireflies dance above the water. "He planned this," Harper whispered. "He always planned this. Every piece, every clue, every safeguard. He built the entire trail so that only I could follow it." "That's your father," Elijah said. "He never trusted systems. He trusted people. And the only person he trusted completely was you." At 12:19, Westbrook called. Harper answered instantly. "James, where are you?" "I'm outside the station. I couldn't get in. They had the perimeter locked down before I even reached the entrance. Harper, I saw them load a man into a black transport vehicle. Unmarked. Government plates. They headed east on the freeway." "Can you follow them?" "I'm trying, but they're moving fast and they have at least 2 escort vehicles. This isn't a kidnapping, Harper. This is a military extraction. Gaines is treating your father like a captured enemy combatant. Because that's what he is to them. My father has the evidence that can destroy them all. They'll interrogate him. They'll try to break the encryption. And when they can't, they'll try to get the code. He won't give it up. He doesn't have it. I have it. Which means they'll figure that out eventually, and then they'll come for me." "How long?" "Hours. Maybe less. Gaines is smart. He'll realize quickly that my father doesn't have the access code. And when he does, he'll redirect every resource he has toward finding me." At 12:41, Elijah pulled the van into the underground parking structure beneath the safe house. They moved quickly, taking the elevator up to the loft. Madison collapsed against a wall the moment they were inside. She was pale. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. But she was still standing, still present, still refusing to fall apart. Harper went straight to Elijah's monitors. She pulled up a map and entered the coordinates from her father's note. The pin dropped on a location in Virginia, Nelson County, deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains, a stretch of river with no name that appeared on any official map. "I need to get to Virginia," Harper said. "That's a 5-hour flight, and every airport in the country will have your face flagged within the hour. Then we drive. 40 hours. You don't have 40 hours. Then find me another way." Elijah stared at her for a moment. Then he picked up one of the burner phones and dialed a number. "Who are you calling?" Harper asked. "Someone I promised myself I would never call again. We're even now." He turned away and spoke quietly into the phone. The conversation lasted less than 2 minutes. When he hung up, his expression had changed. Harder, more resolved. "There's a private airfield in Oceanside, 30 minutes north. A cargo pilot who owes me his life is willing to fly us to a strip in Charlottesville. No manifests, no passenger records. We leave in 1 hour." "Us? You think I'm letting you do this alone?" Harper looked at him. She wanted to say something, but the word stuck. So she just nodded. It was enough. At 1:11 in the afternoon, Harper sat down next to Madison. Her friend was staring at the floor, her arms wrapped around herself, rocking slightly. "Maddie, I know what you're going to say. You can't come with me this time." Madison looked up. Her eyes were red. Her lips were cracked. She looked like she had aged 10 years in a single night. "I know," she said. "I know I can't. I'm not a soldier. I'm not a spy. I'm a nurse from Virginia who braids hair and watches reality TV and worries about her best friend every single day. I can't follow you into whatever comes next. But I need you to hear me, Harper. I need you to actually listen. I'm listening. Come back. Whatever you do, wherever you go, however bad it gets, you come back. You don't get to disappear like your father. You don't get to become a ghost. I already grieved one person I love. I'm not doing it again. Harper pulled Madison into a hug. She held her tight the way she had held her after their first high school. Heartbreak after Madison's mother's funeral, after every terrible thing that life had thrown at them. She held her like it was the last time because part of her feared it might be. I'll come back, Harper said into Madison's hair. I promise, Estapes. You better, because if you don't, I'm coming to find you, and I won't be polite about it. Harper almost laughed, almost. At 1:58, Westbrook arrived at the safe house. He looked grim. He looked 10 years older than he had that morning. I lost them, he said. The transport vehicle went through a military checkpoint near Miramar. I couldn't follow without credentials, and my credentials were revoked 2 hours ago. Revoked? Gaines moved fast. I've been flagged as a security risk. 32 years of service, and as of noon today, I don't exist in the system anymore. My clearance, my access, my pension, all gone. James, I'm sorry. Don't be. I made my choice a long time ago. I chose your father. I chose the truth, and I'd make the same choice again. He paused. Where are we? Virginia. We're going to Virginia. My father left coordinates. The second encryption key for the vault is hidden at a location only he and I know about. And then we go to Zurich. We open the vault. We take the ledger, and we burn Gaines to the ground. Westbrook looked at her for a long time. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small leather case. He opened it and held it out to her. Inside was a challenge coin, the kind that Special Forces operators carry. On one side was the Navy SEAL Trident, on the other an inscription that Harper had seen only once before on the day she earned it. The only easy day was yesterday, Westbrook said. Your father gave me this the day you graduated from BUD/S. He said it was the proudest moment of his life. He asked me to give it to you when the time was right. His voice broke. I think the time is right. Harper took the coin. She closed her fingers around it and felt the metal warm against her palm. Her father's pride, her father's love, compressed into a piece of bronze that fit in the palm of her hand. At 3:37 in the afternoon, a twin-engine cargo plane lifted off from a private airfield in Oceanside, California. On board were Harper Dalton, Elijah Cross, and Commander James Westbrook. Madison had been placed in a car, driven by one of Elijah's contacts, heading to a safe location in Nevada, where she would wait. The flight was rough. Turbulence shook the small plane like a toy. Harper sat with her back against the fuselage, the challenge coin in one hand and her father's note in the other. She read the words over and over. The second key is where we watch the fireflies. She closed her eyes and let herself go back. 10 years old, summer, the Blue Ridge Mountains, a clearing by the river where the grass was soft and the air smelled like pine and wild honeysuckle. Her father had built a fire, and they had sat together watching the fireflies emerge as the sun went down one by one. Then hundreds, then thousands, until the whole riverbank was alive with light. Do you know why they glow? Her father had asked. To find each other, Harper had said. That's right. In all that darkness, they light up so they can find each other. Remember that, Harper. When everything goes dark, you be the light. You always be the light. She opened her eyes. The plane was descending. At 8:14 in the evening, they landed on a grass strip outside Charlottesville. A truck was waiting. Elijah's network was deeper than Harper had realized. People who owed him, people who trusted him, people who lived in the shadows and helped others do the same. They drove for an hour into the mountains. Harper navigated from memory, not from the coordinates, but from the feeling in her chest, the pull of a place she had loved before she understood what love was. She recognized turns by the shape of the trees' hills, by the way they rolled against the sky. Here, she said. Stop here. They were on a dirt road that ended at a metal gate. Beyond the gate, a trail led down to the river. Harper climbed over the gate and walked the trail alone. Elijah and Westbrook stayed behind. They understood. This was not their moment. The riverbank was exactly as she remembered. The grass, the rocks, the gentle bend where the water slowed and deepened. And in the center of the clearing, a large flat stone where she and her father used to sit. Harper walked to the stone and knelt beside it. She ran her hands along the edges, feeling for something. Her father was a man who hid things in plain sight. He believed that the best secrets were the ones that looked like nothing at all. She found it on the underside. A small metal box sealed with waterproof resin bolted to the rock with screws that had been painted to match the stone's surface. She pried it loose with her fingers, scraping her knuckles, not caring about the pain. Inside the box was a USB drive and a handwritten note. Harper, if you're reading this, it means I failed to come home. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the years I stole from you. I'm sorry for the grave you visited. I'm sorry for every birthday, every Christmas, every ordinary Tuesday that I should have been there and wasn't. This drive contains the second encryption layer for the Zurich vault. Combined with the code I sent you, it will unlock everything. The ledger, the names, the proof. Use it, not for revenge, not for anger. For the 4 men who died in Kabul because they trusted the wrong people. For Haynes, who was murdered for trying to tell the truth. For every soldier who puts on a uniform, believing that the people above them are honorable. Give them the truth they deserve. And then when it's done, go live your life. Be happy. Find someone who makes you laugh. Watch the fireflies. I love you more than anything I've ever known, Dad. Harper pressed the note against her chest and cried. Not the silent, controlled tears of a soldier. The raw, ugly, broken sobs of a daughter who had lost her father twice and was now holding his words against her heart in the exact spot where he had taught her to be brave. She cried until there was nothing left. And then she stood up, wiped her face, put the USB drive in her pocket, and walked back up the trail. Elijah and Westbrook were waiting. They saw her face. They didn't ask. I have it, she said. We go to Zurich. At 11:41 that night, Elijah's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went absolutely white. What? Harper demanded. Your father escaped. What? The transport. Somewhere between Miramar and the interrogation site, the vehicle stopped at a military fuel depot. Your father was handcuffed in the back with 2 guards. When the vehicle stopped, he dislocated his own thumb to slip the cuffs, incapacitated both guards, and disappeared into the desert. That's my dad, Harper said, and for the first time in 24 hours, she smiled. There's more. Before he disappeared, he accessed one of the guards' radios and broadcast a message on an open military frequency. Every base within 200 miles heard it. What did he say? Elijah looked at her with something between admiration and disbelief. He said General Arthur Gaines is a traitor to the United States of America. The proof exists. It's coming. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Then he destroyed the radio and vanished. Harper felt her chest swell. Her father, 61 years old, injured, hunted, alone, and still fighting, still the bravest man she had ever known. Gaines will be in full panic mode now, Westbrook said. That broadcast went to every military communications officer on the West Coast. He can suppress it, classify it, deny it, but he can't unhear it. People will talk. Questions will be asked. Then we give them answers, Harper said. We get to Zurich. We open that vault, and we put the ledger in the hands of people who will use it. Who? Elijah asked. The Pentagon is compromised. Congress has moles. Intelligence agencies can't be trusted. The press, Harper said. We give it to every major news outlet simultaneously. Washington Post, New York Times, Reuters, BBC, all of them. At the same time, so many copies in so many hands that no one can suppress it. No one can bury it. No one can make it disappear. That's a nuclear option, Westbrook said. Then it's nuclear. These people killed 4 soldiers. They murdered Marcus Haynes. They destroyed my father's life. They tried to destroy mine. They've been selling American weapons to terrorists for a decade. Nuclear isn't enough, but it's a start. They drove through the night to a private airfield where Elijah had arranged international transport. A chartered cargo flight to Frankfurt, then a train to Zurich. No passports, no customs, no records. Elijah's world operated on a currency of favors and silence, and he was spending every last coin he had. At 6:22 the following morning, Harper Dalton walked into a private bank in Zurich, Switzerland. She was exhausted. She hadn't slept in over 30 hours. The wound on her head was throbbing. Her hands were steady. She presented the 20-digit code from memory. She inserted the USB drive. The bank officer, a polite man in a gray suit who asked no questions, led her to a vault deep below the building. The lock required both keys simultaneously, the code and the drive. together, the way her father had designed it. Two pieces of a puzzle that could only be assembled by the one person he trusted with everything. The vault opened. Inside was a single hard Bible, black, unremarkable, the size of a paperback book. It contained the financial records of every illegal arms deal facilitated by Ironclad Tactical over a period of 7 years. Names, dates, dollar amounts, delivery coordinates, buyer identities, offshore accounts. The complete, irrefutable blueprint of a criminal conspiracy that reached the highest levels of the American military. Harper held it in her hands and felt the weight of it. Not physical weight, moral weight. The weight of 4 dead soldiers. The weight of her father's sacrifice. The weight of 8 years of lies and grief and empty graves. "Is that it?" Madison's voice. Harper turned. Madison was on speakerphone connected through one of the burner phones. She had been listening the whole time from her safe house in Nevada. "That's it," Harper said. "Then finish it." At 9:04 in the morning at Zurich time, Harper Dalton, Elijah Cross, and Commander James Westbrook sat in a hotel room and uploaded the contents of the hard drive to 14 different news organizations simultaneously. Every name, every transaction, every dollar, every lie. At 9:17, the first journalist called back. At 9:31, the second. By 10:15, Harper's story was on the front page of every major news website in the world. By noon, General Arthur Gaines had been detained by military police at his home in Virginia. He was still in his bathrobe. By 3 in the afternoon, 17 Pentagon officials had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Ironclad Tactical's offices were raided by the FBI. Derek Voss was arrested at a motel in Arizona. By 6 in the evening, the President of the United States had ordered a full independent investigation into the Nightfall program and the illegal arms pipeline. And at 7:43 in the evening, Harper Dalton received a phone call from an unknown number. She answered it the way she always did, cautiously, ready for anything. "Harper," her father's voice, tired, broken, alive. "Dad, I saw the news. You did it. You actually did it. Where are you?" "Somewhere safe for now. I don't know for how long. They'll still come for me. Not everyone on that list has been caught. It'll take months. Maybe years. Then come home. Turn yourself in. Westbrook can protect you. The story is out. They can't bury it now. Not yet. There are things I still need to do. People I still need to protect. But Harper, yeah, I'm going to come home. I promise you. One day I'm going to walk up to your front door and knock, and when you open it, I'm going to hug you the way I should have hugged you 8 years ago. And I'm never going to let go. You better not. I love you, Firefly. I love you too, Dad." The line went silent. Harper sat with the phone pressed to her ear long after the call ended, listening to nothing, holding on to the sound of his voice like a lifeline. 3 weeks later, Harper Dalton stood in front of a Senate committee and testified for 6 hours. She told them everything. Kabul, Nightfall, the 4 soldiers who died, the cover-up, the ledger, the vault. She spoke with the calm precision of a soldier and the raw honesty of a daughter, and when she was finished, the room was silent. Not the silence of disbelief. The silence of people who finally understood the cost of the truth. Madison flew to Washington for the testimony. She sat in the front row. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. She was just there the way she had always been there, steady and loyal and unbreakable. After the hearing, they walked out of the Capitol building together. The sun was setting over Washington, and the sky was painted in shades of gold and pink that Harper would have called beautiful if she had been the kind of person who noticed things like that. But she wasn't. She was the kind of person who noticed threats and exits and the weight of a challenge coin in her pocket. "What now?" Madison asked. Harper looked at her, her best friend, her anchor, the woman who had followed her into the worst night of her life and come out the other side, still holding her hand. "Now, Tom," Harper said, "I go watch the fireflies." She meant it, not as a metaphor, not as a symbol. She meant she was going to drive to Virginia to that riverbank, to that flat stone by the water, and she was going to sit there and watch the fireflies the way she had when she was 10 years old, and the world was simple, and her father was beside her. Because Harper Dalton had spent 6 years learning how to fight in the dark. She had spent 8 years grieving a lie. She had spent one impossible night proving that the smallest person in the room can carry the heaviest truth. And now she was going to sit by a river and be the light. Not because someone ordered her to, not because the mission required it, but because her father had taught her a long time ago that in all the darkness, the bravest thing you can do is glow. And Harper Dalton had never